G'day everyone, this is Stevic. I've just smashed a fisherman's friend and I'm ready to attempt to take you into my mind and explain some of the concepts behind 12 Foot Ninja's graphic novel Vengeance and the preceding comic book Shuriken Journey to the Illumosphere. So if you've already got the graphic novel, I hope that this video can shed some light on some aspects to the story, or at least the logic that underpins the story. One of the foundational ideas I drew from with this stuff was Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, first made up in the mid-50s. Everett's interpretation, it sounds kind of nerdy and exclusive, but really you would have come across it before because it underpins a lot of time travel books and films. The suggestion is that time infinitely expands like branches on a tree, and all possibilities are realized in a parallel world within an endless multiverse. So I like this idea because it seemed to encapsulate the often disparate concepts co-inhabiting the 12 Foot Ninja project. You've got Kiyoshi's story, you've got the band, you've got the music, you've got the music videos, you've got the transient nature of interpersonal relationships, even the perceptions people have of the individuals in the band and the band collectively. You can play with how all of those concepts might interact, where that interaction might take place, what might happen as a result of that interaction, and who are we in the context of it all. Now, I admit that I did start to go somewhere strange making this, and it made perfect sense to me, but then I read it back the other day and I'm like, Jesus, this is pretty trippy. I probably need to, make a video about this. The story begins on a parallel Earth with a guy that looks a lot like me named Stanley Chance. And this happens in the Shuriken comic Journey to the Illumosphere. So I want to take you through the Shuriken comic and tell you that story, and then we'll cover the first part of the Vengeance graphic novel, and then hopefully you'll be off and running after that. Shuriken Journey to the Illumosphere Part 1. Stanley Chance, an enthusiastic music teacher. There he is. Aim for the stars. Students do not give a fuck. But only if you've got a weapon capable of firing a projectile 4.24 light years into space. Otherwise, aim for the shed and fucking hit it! Intentions. Intentions are like wishes. We throw them out there like magic fairy dust, hoping they'll just happen. Goals, on the other hand, goals are destination oriented. Every goal defines the process. You got people taking selfies and shit. Just like a runway lighting up where we are, and then the clock ticks, end of class, and they zip out the door, where I want to be. Stanley cleans up his presentation confetti and a colleague walks in.
Were they in shock and awe with the confetti this time?
I reckon it'll hit them later when they're watching Ko videos on YouTube. So Ko is a global phenomenon, famous for being famous. He's got this video here with 3 billion views. I Got a Car, Flower Mountain. He's written a book. It's Pictures of Meh, 17th edition.
You know, Ko is short for conglomerate. The guy is a bazillionaire and hot.
I thought Ko was the periodic table formula for carbon monoxide. You know, that tasteless shit that slowly kills you.
You sound a bit jealous, Stanley.
Yeah? Well, maybe. I bet Ko doesn't clean up his own confetti. 3 minutes later, leaving work. Looks a lot like Brunswick Street, doesn't it? 2 hipsters walk up. He's got a fucking parking ticket. Fuck!
Is that really necessary, brah?
Tries to improve his day with a fucking Cadbury flake in the car. Fatal error if you've ever eaten a Cadbury flake. It's not something you can eat in the car. And then he fucking swerves and nearly hits this bloke. You fucking Bronco! 20 minutes later, arrives home. Sachi's looking at him with a shit on the floor. It's a perfect end of a shit day. All these student assessments to mark. Ko's dominating the TV with another song, I Want to Lick You Like Ice Cream, and Stanley drifts off to sleep. Where am I? Who are you? What am I? What are you? Yeah, that's right. That's what you should go on. Go on it. Yep. What are you? Which one? Toby. Toby? Yes, Toby, son. Shinobi. Did you just make that up?
I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough.
I didn't do the sound effect. His head went and he turned into Obi-Wan Kenobi. When I'm old enough? How do you know my father?
But your uncle wouldn't allow it. He feared you might follow old Toby-san on some damn fool idealistic crusade like your father did.
What the fuck are you on about?
Okay, look, I'll come clean. I was a guitar god, or at least I was supposed to be, but I was killed in an epic guitar battle.
So you're like a ghost or something?
Not a ghost, more the apparition of an unfulfilled destiny, trapped in the eternal between dreams and nightmares.
What killed you?
I was outplayed by ego, vanquished in a guitar battle atop the mountain of mountains.
You can see him there. His guitar's busted. Kicked off the mountain there. There's Ego. Demon-looking dude.
Now I'm neither here nor there.
Killed by Ego.
My oath I was. Ego is a jerk of the highest order. Now, Luke. Can you hear me, Luke?
My name isn't Luke.
That's your uncle talking.
What?
You need to face Ego and retrieve the talisman from the mountain of mountains. And then you'll be free.
Free? I am already.
I'm an aspect of you, Luke. An aspect that lost its way. By saving me, you save yourself.
If, for a second, we entertain this crackpot idea, what makes you think my outcome will be different to yours?
Imagination, Luke. Use your imagination.
Turns into a kookaburra. Feathers and shit. He wakes up, there's a kookaburra on the TV. Sachi's fucking staring at him, not blinking, like she always does. And he can hear her voice in his head.
He's right, you know.
Stanley's looking around going, who's fucking talking?
It is just you and I, Stanley.
I need to lay off the caffeine.
No, Stanley. Heed Toby-san Shinobi's words. The talisman waits for you atop the mountain of mountains, within the Imaginarium.
Ah, the Imaginarium. Is that some kind of aviary for morons?
No, Stanley. The Imaginarium is in the multiverse. It's where all creations from imagination exist and travel through to the illumosphere, where you met Toby-san.
Have you been eating your tail again, little mate?
I have been eating my tail, Stanley, but that is besides the point. Anything is...
You know when dogs go crazy and bark at the door? Stanley gets up to see what's there. You right, mate? It's the gas meter man.
Pal, just reading your gas meter.
Righto, good shit. I'll leave you to it.
Ah, you smoke, brother?
No, sorry, I don't.
What if I sit over there on that rock and have a smoke?
So he goes and sits on the rock and has a smoke.
Yep.
He just looks at him. Been busy then, have ya?
Oh, mate, I walked 40 k's today. I used to bloody run everywhere. Then a light bulb went off in my head. Dong! I was like, I don't get fucking sick, mate. Why am I running? Why am I bloody running? So I stopped.
And he just looks at him again. Maybe you could get one of those electric scooters or something. Huge inhale.
You know Scott Spinelli?
No.
Bit of a drug, but Scott Spinelli was going to soup up a red line BMX for me. Wheelie bars, tough wheels, top shelf cranks and pegs. I used to be able to endo from my joint to the fish and chip shop back in the day. You ride, mate?
Nah.
Play pool?
Nah, not particularly well.
I used to hustle pool for a living. That's how I met my first wife. She was the best topless waitress in Melbourne, mate. Feeding him.
Stanley gets a text. He's running late for class. Fuck! Must have slept right through. I gotta go!
You better do that quest.
Come again?
Scott Spinelli BMX. Whack his name in a bloody goggle page.
He starts the car. What a fucking freak. And he looks at him in the rear vision mirror. Crikey fucking shit, Sachi. How'd you bloody get in the car? Sachi's just sitting there.
You need to come with me to the Imaginarium, Stanley. We have to get to the Grand Gate on the edge of the illumosphere. We have less than 8 minutes.
Loomis, I'm having a stroke, aren't I?
You are not having a stroke, Stanley. I understand this might be alarming, but you need to pull yourself together and follow my instructions very carefully.
Follow your instructions? You shat on the floor yesterday.
Never mind that. We must find the silver dumpster behind Fong's Chinese Chicken. Please hurry, Stanley. Right here, Stanley. Place me inside the bin and then jump in immediately after me.
This is fucking bonkers.
Keep your eyes tightly shut. Remember, if you open your eyes, you will see what cannot be seen, and this world's link to the multiverse will be severed for eternity.
This feels very wrong.
This is the only way, Stanley.
I shouldn't be putting my dog in the bin.
Do not believe what you think.
Nothing's happening. And then in a flash, Stanley and Sachi disappear into the rubbish without a trace. There they are, falling through another dimension, hitting the ground, and then the spear rises up and challenges Stanley's view on goals.
It's less about setting goals and more about changing habits.
What the fuck was that? And then Sachi transforms.
That was a manifestation of your imagination, Stanley. You created him from your vomit. Now he will go on to become a citizen of the Imaginarium.
Sachi?
Yes, you know me as Sachi, but my true name is Nunanu, and I'm a Charon of the multiverse.
A Charon?
I carry souls through the oceans of subconsciousness.
Fucking course you do.
You have much to learn of this reality, Stanley, but now we must reach the Grand Gate and gain passage into the Imaginarium. That is where your true journey begins. It will take your body a while to adjust.
So with Stanley unconscious on her back, Sachi runs at great speed towards the edge of the illumosphere. And he wakes up. Toby-san.
Yes, it is I.
You're real.
I'm a real boy.
Toby-san turns into Pinocchio.
For Jesus, how long was I out?
2 weeks! 2 weeks! Toby-san's head becomes a fat lady from Total Recall.
Time works differently in the realm, Stanley. When someone from your world uses their imagination, a physical incarnation springs into existence in the Imaginarium. The only known death for these creations is being forgotten. Creations are renewed via linking to a subconscious mind from your world. Time is not outside of creation, ticking away no matter what. Creations exist in the space between moments and eternity. There simply is or isn't.
Trippy. And what happens if people stop imagining?
Everybody dies!
Jesus!
It's not quite that simple.
None of this seems to fall into that category.
When people stop imagining, creations are decommissioned by wardens of the realm. Their access to the Grand Gate is revoked, and they begin their end.
Their end? What happens to them? Where do they go?
Go on, he needs to know.
There was a time when they became possibilities, neither something nor nothing, but now they're being harvested by wraiths of the underworld, the Obtainers. They come up from the chasm between the Imaginarium and the illumosphere and turn decommissioned creations into the antithesis of the intent they were created with. They then attack the subconscious minds of your world. The reduction of imagination has dismantled the balance.
So, let me get this straight. You're some kind of guitar ghost of Christmas past, alternate reality realization of mistakes I haven't made yet, and you're some kind of dimensional spirit guide who's brought me here to take on a cosmic mission to restore Fairy Dairyland.
Yeah, in a roundabout kind of way.
Too easy, mate.
I know this must be difficult to comprehend, but if Obtainers succeed in overturning the realm, they'll gain unrestricted access to the subconscious minds of your world. It's already beginning.
So what? Maybe a few people get the heebie-jeebies. Big deal.
No, it's much more dire than that, Stanley. With no imagination and only fear, the minds of humans are easily malleable by the will of ego, forever paralyzed in a state of perpetual complexity and pursuit of unattainable virtue. That is why the talisman is a guitar. And when imagination is controlled by ego, it wanders so far from the human spirit, it's forever lost.
I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing here, or how I can even achieve what you're asking me. But I'll give it a crack, Sachi.
It's Nunanu, but refer to me as Sachi if you wish. Now, we haven't much time to lose. We must get down to Edgeport and find someone
Or something.
who can help us get Stanley past the wardens, through the Grand Gate, and into the Imaginarium.
Sachi, Toby-san, and Stanley begin their descent into Edgeport toward the Grand Gate. To be continued. Now we start the Vengeance graphic novel. In another part of the multiverse, on the hostile planet Yind, the tyrannical parasitoid queen Paraxess scans both physical and metaphysical worlds from her floating technohive. There's a floating technohive and the ruins of Yind. An axonometric display pulses with alien feedback. She's monitoring something. 3 distinctly coloured signatures are on the move. An outsider, an obsolete, and a Charon. But she's actually seeing Toby-san, Stanley, and Nunanu down there in Edgeport. Then we cut to the Aqua Planet in the Durwood. Grencho, Lumei, and Kiyoshi stand in front of a portal.
Fundamental forces of this world don't apply where you're going, Kiyoshi. I altered the subatomic anatomy to interface with the realm.
Wait for the Charon, Nunanu.
Depleting what little power reserve she has, Lumei points toward the portal, frozen. So you see here Kiyoshi moving from the Aqua Planet, going through the portal, entering the illumosphere in the realm. In the dimension known as the realm subsists the illumosphere, a supertemporal boundless space. He waits for the one known as Nunanu. This is from the Shuriken comic. That's Edgeport there. We've got the chasm. These guys are still sitting up in the illumosphere. We've got the Grand Gate, and that's the Imaginarium. So the Edgeport's a melting pot of travelling creations. Black market trading and obscure interactions take place. It's known as the realm's slums, sheltering those with dim vitality, avoiding being processed. Toby's son, this bloke, Stanley, here, and Nunanu, invisible, arrive at Knake Skez's ramshackle walk-up store in a junkie enclave. As a Charon of the multiverse, Nunanu is selectively imperceptible. So Knake cannot see Nunanu. Only Toby's son and Stanley can see Nunanu.
Pronto, meatbags. I don't want my friend Blang has to spoil.
My colleague and I kindly propose a bit of a trade.
Kindly piss
Knock
off.
on the counter 3 times.
Nunanu says.
Uno, dos, tres. Qui pro quo. What con Knake Skez?
We'd like a vitality lantern, please, Madam Cholita.
It's going to cost you, dickhead. Immensamente.
Explain we have a Kang for Thok's Kangling.
We've got a top-notch Kang for Thok's
And we
Kangling.
trade Stanley's rind for a tardigrade slice.
And if you chuck in a tardigrade slice, you can get my hombre here's El Primo rind.
Why is she ignoring Nunanu? Who the fuck is Thok? What's a Kang? I don't have a rind.
I see you, you fucking dere. No rind is but a tardigrade slice.
Knake Skez points to the floating tardigrade in the tank behind her.
This one's Marinado in belief, aka he's not from around here. Comprende?
Silvio. Thok.
Why is she looking at me like that?
Thok. Thok.
She goes out the back there, disappears, comes out with a little box.
Rise and shine, my querido. Thok.
Thok pops out like a little fucking jack-in-the-box. The quad-arm monocled Thok drops a tape measure to the ground without breaking gaze at Stanley. A fleshy snap of his fingers gestures an unspoken command to Knake. Simultaneously, Stanley is restrained by the invisible Nunanu. Much to his surprise, Knake gingerly hands Thok a tool that looks like a giant-sized crab cracker. Stanley's starting to get pretty worried here, wearing his Bruce Nick t-shirt. Thok closes the crab cracker apparatus above Stanley's knee and severs his leg with a sickening snap. You can see his leg just getting cut off completely. Now we're back on Yind in Paraxess's techno hive. She deploys obtainers to Edgeport to confront the unfamiliar travellers. So that's happening in the background. Now, with the leer of a nefarious artisan, Thok feeds Stanley's severed leg into his curious machine. So Stanley's starting to lose a bit of consciousness here and still getting manhandled by the invisible Nunanu, missing a leg. A perfectly smooth femur, replete with ornate design, slides into Thok's waiting hands. The eerie drone of Thok's new Kangling excites Knake. Stanley drifts out of consciousness. There's Thok playing it.
Exquisito.
How about that, hey?
Let's be prompt for Stanley's sake, Toby-san.
See that Stanley's starting to lose it.
Thok, you're an 18-carat barn burner, mate. That was Coltrane level leg playing. Now, how about that vitality?
Knake hands over the super rare vitality.
Thank you.
Time for fritas.
Now Thok pulls out this fucking weird-ass chip machine. The second part of the trade involves a grim-looking device Thok points directly at Stanley. A press of an arcade button sends hooked wires beneath Stanley's epidermis. He inaudibly screams into Nunanu's invisible vice-like grip. So imagine all these fucking cables sticking into his head. You can see it on the infrared display there. And then a winch mechanism flays Stanley's skin into Thok's machine like escalator teeth swallowing a plastic bag. Chips start flying out, which Knake clumsily catches in a bucket as Stanley completely flayed. Toby-san's fucking chucking all over the floor and chips are flying out of the machine. Knake's like,
Well,
Thok inspects one of Stanley's skin chips with a monocular loop like he's grading a precious gemstone. He takes a little bite.
I can really taste the belief.
Yummo. Now, if we could get the,
Toby-san's wiping his mouth with the vomit.
I haven't seen Thok that emotional in Yangingas. Belief flavoring is rarer than frog-footed cochinillo.
Kanake's hand reaches for that giant floating tardigrade to complete her transaction with Toby-san. The arriving slow walker feebly protests on Kanake's guillotine-styled slicer. With one lever pull, the blades of the guillotine cleave the creature with ease. So all in one hit, it's just sliced into pieces. A slice of the tardigrade goes into the toaster-like apparatus. Like a piece of toast, the machine pops out a metaphysical comic made from the tardigrade slice. Stanley's story. It's also this.
Show Stanley the moment before he crossed the threshold.
Go on, have a squiz of this, mate.
Meanwhile, Thok's sitting there munching away on his skin chips. Toby's son flips open the comic book to the page where Stanley and Sachi enter the bin behind Fong's Chinese chicken. Only in this version, they don't disappear. Stanley's eyes focus on the illustrated version of what led him to the illumosphere. Only he doesn't cross the threshold in this version. It simply never happened. You can see there, just black. That was where he disappeared into the bin. And then,
whoop, there he goes.
Paraxess's obtainers finally reached Toby's son. They're the creatures that Paraxess sent after them.
Ah, fuck. They're after me, aren't they?
Afraid so.
But what about Ego and the mission?
Like Stanley before him, Toby's son begins to suspect the role he is to play may not be as he thought. Knake abruptly disappears behind her corrugated store shutter. She doesn't risk discovery by the feared obtainers. She doesn't speak very good Spanish, as you can tell.
Let go of Ego, and Ego will let go of you.
Meanwhile, Toby's son gets shish kebabbed, and the obtainers drag Toby's son toward the Edgeport chasm. If you look closely, you can see there's Nick, Russ, Stevic, Ro, and all a bunch of creatures watching as Toby's son gets dragged off. And it's here that Toby's son's journey ends. So Nunanu returns to the illumosphere to find Kiyoshi waiting. The unwritten part in this section centers around the vitality trade at Kanake's store. Toby's son is a figment of Stanley's imagination and therefore an inhabitant of the realm, but as Toby's son lost his vitality to Ego atop the mountain of mountains, Nunanu the Charon guided Toby's son's creator, who's Stanley, to Edgeport to trade his skin and leg bone in exchange for very rare vitality needed to get Kiyoshi through the Grand Gate. And because Stanley isn't physically there but believes he is, his skin is particularly flavoursome to Thok. So when we return to Paraxess monitoring the life forms on page 1, we can identify that the outsider is Stanley, the obsolete is Toby's son, and the Charon is Nunanu. And the super rare and mysterious Charons can guide an entity through the illumosphere expanse to Edgeport, but never past the giant Grand Gate robot overlords. Only those with vitality can enter the Imaginarium. In other words, the whole thing with Toby's son and Stanley was a stitch up by Nunanu to get the hero, Kiyoshi, the 12-foot ninja, into the Imaginarium to take on the evil Paraxess. How about that?
There isn't much time. Many adversaries assemble against you beyond the gate. This will get you into the Imaginarium. There, you must seek out and destroy Paraxess.
Paraxess?
How? Belief sustains life and bends the fabric of reality in this realm, Kiyoshi. Your enemy is a parasitoid queen with immense power, puncturing multiple layers of existence. Do not underestimate her.
And with a parting decree, Nunanu vanished into the expanse. Suddenly, a tree appears, disrupting the emptiness of the illumosphere, like a beacon out of endlessness. And here, we can see Kiyoshi, or the 12-foot ninja, is now standing on that precipice with the tree, looking down at Edgeport, looking at the Grand Gate, the chasm, and the Imaginarium, which is exactly the same precipice, tree, Edgeport, Grand Gate, Imaginarium here. Reaching the tree, Kiyoshi meets the outer rim of the illumosphere, an exquisite vantage point. Kiyoshi's journey begins. And then we start learning more about the backstory. That's where I'll leave it. I'll leave it right there. If you want to know more, get yourself the graphic novel, because it took a long time to come up with this shit, and yeah, I hope people enjoy it. All right, see you later.